Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Real Thoughts with Bob Benham. I am your host, Bob Benham. Thanks for checking in. I really appreciate it. I can't believe it. This is my 34th episode already. um, and I just keep on going. Um, it's crazy that I've got that many out already. I haven't thought about doing that many, but hey, I'm just going to keep cranking them out. I don't care. Somebody's got to be talking about what's going on right now in the world. Somebody's got to keep up the fight. There's many, many, many people out there. I know that. A lot of, excuse me, a lot of people are doing podcasts now and saying a lot of the same things I'm saying, and a lot of them have a lot more followers and a lot more views, um, and but hey, I still believe in we got to keep up the fight, and I'm one of them. So if you want to follow and listen, that's great. I'm glad. Um, I appreciate it, and I'm not getting paid for doing this. This is just me being in the fight because I believe in it. Um, I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America. I believe in what the founding fathers set up, and I believe in the Constitution as it is worded, not in how activist judges have interpreted it in their own way with their opinion, and in their activist opinion at that. And it goes pretty much with the liberal sense. They really want to harm this country, and they hate this country, and with every sense of their being. They really do hate the United States. They'll tell you that they're doing it in, as patriots. They're doing it in defense of democracy. They'll do it that in this in the that as a part of law and order, and they don't believe in any of that. They don't believe in law and order. You look at what they do, their actions, they're violent. Conservatives aren't violent. If they are, it's very rare. But you look at all these leftist organizations, and every single one of them commits acts of violence. They attack pro-lifers. They attack any kind of conservative organizations that are out there. If a conservative organization is protesting, you can bet that the leftists are going to show up and attack them. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. And I don't agree with that in any shape or form. Um, I don't agree with violence being used in any way. Um, however, um, I do believe in violence being used in self defense. If somebody's attacking you, by all means, uh, you have the right to defend yourself. And you have the right to defend yourself using any force necessary. Um, if you feel like your life's in danger, by all means, take that other person out. And that's just how life is. Um, I mean, it's just crazy how bad things are. Um, it's and then you have another group of people, and I'm just going to come out and say it. You have blacks in this country that have been so ingrained that whites are the enemy, that they feel they can just do whatever the hell they want. And an excellent example of that is what happened about a week and a half ago in Cincinnati, when that mob of blacks attacked the white people that were leaving that jazz festival and severely beat them. That one lady ended up with a brain injury and brain damage out of it when she got knocked out. Um, that is totally unacceptable. You see video all the time on X, on um, Facebook, on whatever, showing blacks thinking they're entitled to do whatever they want with the police, thinking they don't have to show their driver's license, they don't have to comply with what the police are saying and what the police are ordering them to do. And things just escalate, and then they demand de-escalation, and they're the ones escalating the situation. And then when the officer ends up dragging him out of the car, placing him in handcuffs, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And the police officer is viewed as the one being the bad guy. I'm here to tell you, people, the police officer is not the bad guy. He's not. Not at all. And we have to stop this crap of blaming the police for everything. The body cameras show that the police are not bad. It's crazy that the way I mean, the liberals have just destroyed anything the police do, any kind of action the police take. I mean, good example too, in Columbus, Ohio. They had the 2020 riots over the idiot George Floyd, the dope head that died of a drug overdose, not from being from the officer that had his knee supposedly on his neck, which he didn't. If you look at the video, the knee was on the top of the shoulder. But anyway, the bull crap about that they made George Floyd a hero, a criminal, a hero, and he is not a hero, not even close by any standard. They're out there rioting about this moron, and they are busting up businesses, breaking into businesses, looting businesses, setting fire to things, beating up people, stopping cars, dragging them out of their cars, beating them up. And the police are coming in and trying to stop all this stuff and telling them to get out of the streets because they're blocking the streets and preventing people from freedom of movement. Basically just committing crimes. I mean, they're just flat out committing crime. And the officers are out there, they're using non-lethal weapons, non-lethal force, using mace, using tear gas, shoving people out of the way, things like that, to get them out of there, to get them out of the street, to get them away, to drive them, to send them, to try to get them to send them home. They gave them lawful order, disperse. This is an unlawful assembly. You need to disperse, get out of here, go away. And then some federal judge, and I'm sorry, the name of her escapes me, but she's also black. So, she's an activist, Democrat, liberal. And she should not be on the bench because of that. Because that's not interpreting the Constitution. And that's what her job is, by the way. But that's not interpreting the Constitution, nor is she enforcing the laws and interpreting the laws, because that's her job too, is to hear both sides of an argument and apply the law as it is written for the side that the law applies to. Comes up and says Columbus police can no longer use any kind of crowd control tactics. Not allowed to use the rubber bullets, not allowed to use the knee knockers, not allowed to use the shields, not allowed to use the batons, not allowed to use mace, not allowed to do any of that stuff for crowd control. Yeah. Now, is that a definition of insanity? You got it. What the hell is wrong with these people? I'm sorry. There this is where we have to just go in, yank these people out, and put them in jail for failing to uphold their sworn duty. That, my friend, is treason. They are neglecting their duties. That's called malfeasance. Why do we let them get away with it? That court order alone is illegal. But nobody's appealing it because it goes against the city of Columbus. The Columbus city attorney is all for that because they're just as liberal as that judge is. So they're not going to appeal it. They're like, oh, well, okay, that's fine. We don't need to worry about that. That's exactly what we wanted anyway. So we're not going to appeal that. It just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. How do we let them get away with all that? And why do we let them get away with all that? You know, they say that we have a silent majority in this country, and I really, really, I just don't believe we do. Because if we did, I think they would have come out and spoken up by now. Several times, as a matter of fact. I mean, you look at you look at our cities, and how much they are Democrat. And that just blows my mind to no end anyway. How these people have been so indoctrinated over the years. And it goes back many years. We're talking 60 years plus. Because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. And I watched it happen. I was part of it. I saw it in school, you know, with the whole, you have to share, you have to this, you have to that. I watched it on TV with Sesame Street and all that garbage when I was a kid. And we're talking, you know, I'm 59 and almost 59 and a half years old. I saw it. I learned it. And when was 18, 19 years old, yes, I was a Democrat. I was liberal. I was as liberal as they came. And I was out there, oh, the poor homeless, the poor this, the poor that. I feel bad for this. I feel bad for that. We need to do this for so and so, do that for this group, that for this group. And then I went in the Navy. And the lies started showing up. And it was like, wow, this, all this stuff that I've been taught, it's not true. Somebody made this stuff up. And they just tried to push it down our throats and shoved it down our throats just because they could. There was nobody else there to defend anything. Nobody to say, no, this isn't true. My parents were both Democrats. So it's not like they were going to sit there and say, no, Bob, that's not how it is. That's not true. This is not true. My dad was a proud union man. He worked in a factory for all, his whole life. He was a machine repairman. So and a proud union man, proud. I mean, you could not say anything bad about the unions. So, I mean, it was like, you don't talk bad about the unions. You don't talk bad about the Democrats. You don't, I mean, you just didn't. Now, my mom, she was more center. She wasn't as liberal. She was more center. You could have a conversation with her. She would kind of, talk to you and give you a more centered opinion about things and kind of, give you uh, a both sides of it and say, okay, now you decide you think is right, the right side, or whatever you think, or if you think the center is the right part of it all. And then by that time, anyway, I was, at 9 years old, I started delivering newspapers and had a paper route. And every day before I even, I delivered delivered it in the evenings. And by the time I get off school, go home, go to deliver my paper out, and before I even started delivering my paper out, I was sitting there. I read the whole newspaper before I even started my route. And then I'd go and do it. Because I wanted to know what was going on. I didn't know any different about the media. Then I had to know what was going on the news every night. I had to watch news on TV with my mom and dad. Had to, listen to everything. Oh, I had to make sure that it was matching up with what the newspaper was telling us. Had no idea how we were being just programmed. And it took being away from the news and being out and away from the United States when I was in the Navy, experiencing how things were in other nations and seeing how they ran their countries versus how things were run in the United States. And listening to the people talk about how their countries are. And figuring it out on my own. And then I started doing a lot of reading on the founding of our nation, the arguments that were put forth with the founding of our nation, the Federalist Papers, and things like that, where there was so many arguments, a lot of argument. And it was so much argument about this country not being a democracy and being a constitutional republic where law and order and basically the law ran the nation, and having a representative government. And once all that stuff started making sense, and the fact that the government was there to represent us and not rule us, it made a whole lot of sense to me. Unfortunately, that's not where we are now. I mean, it is really the other way around, and unfortunately, we need to get it back the other way, and that's the one thing that our current president, love him or hate him, he's not a politician. He's a businessman. And he believes in just that the government is representative of us and not there to rule us and tell us what to do. And it is for that reason that I voted for him. This whole thing about the MAGA movement being a cult devoted to Donald Trump is a fallacy. The MAGA movement is there because of the fact that they want the government to stop ruling us, and they want us to be a great nation again, where we determine how everything goes. We can do what we want. We can do how, setting up a business, doing and getting things going again with free market, with capitalism and all that again. The freedom to think and the freedom to place ideas in motion and things like that, and not be restricted by just crazy regulation by the government and all that stuff. And that's all we have right now. You cannot do anything without the government being involved. Nothing. And that's sad. That is just so sad. And I don't know, we just need to get away from that again. We need to have, everybody thinks that we have to have these laws and regulations in place to prevent people from doing dumb things. I mean, you look at you get into a car. What do you have? You have all these warnings on the sun visors and stuff like that. When I was a kid, we didn't have anything like that. There was no warnings on that stuff. Oh, warning! There you got an airbag. You got to be careful. Do you think people really pay attention to that stuff? No, they don't. You go down the freeway and you still see people with their feet up on the dashboard. What do you think's going to happen if that car rear ends somebody? That airbag's going to go off, and that person, whoever has their legs on that dashboard, their legs are toast. They're either going to lose them or they're going to be in many pieces. The bones are going to be in many pieces at least. And they're going to have a long road to recovery. And why? Because they were stupid. And unfortunately, they know what they're doing. They know the consequences of what they're doing, but they're doing it anyway. It's like a drunk driver. It's like a person doing drugs. And now we got to have all this stuff with the Narcan and all that other stuff. No. If they're dumb enough to overdose on drugs and they end up dying, I'm sorry. That's the price you pay. It's like these idiots out here shooting each other. That's the price you pay if you die from gunshot wounds. you can't. You can't prevent stupidity. People are going to do what they're going to do no matter what. No matter how many things are printed out, no matter how many, you open up a freaking box with a vacuum cleaner in it, and you've got more warnings than anything in the world. I mean, it's crazy. Risk of electrocution, blah, 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 blah. Risk of suctioning up your dog, risk of suctioning up your cat, risk of this, risk. Oh my gosh. I know. Why do you have to write it down? Why do you have to put it in paper? Why do you have to make it? I know. If I'm not careful, I mean, I know. If somebody else doesn't know, that's on them. It's called thinning the herd, for one. I mean, years ago, you had hospitals for people that had serious mental issues. We don't have that anymore. They're out there walking around and they're causing problems. And now they're causing even more problems because they're Democrats and they're doing some really strange stuff like transgenderism and whatever else, full on progressive leftist crap that you go, you look at them and you just shake your head because it makes absolutely zero sense. So you look at it and you go, okay, you know, in the back of your mind, you're going, yeah, they need to be put away. But you know, the court said, "Oh no, you're taking away their rights." Okay, yeah, they do have rights. I agree with that, but at the same time, if they refuse to take their medicine, they're causing issues in the community. They're causing issues with the public. They're causing issues with the police. They're causing issues with everybody. Why are we allowing that to happen? But okay. So now we've got that problem. That's creating an issue that was at one time resolved and taken care of that we didn't have to really worry about. Then we have the problem with these libtard judges, prosecutors that let everybody out on the street that shouldn't be on the street, that has criminal records as long as the day is, and they have no business being out. Violent criminals, I'm talking about, not just petty theft people or whatever, but violent criminals, people that have been convicted of assaults, assault with deadly weapons, gun crimes, robbery, aggravated burglaries, blah, 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 rape. But they get released right back out on the street. They get short sentences. And what do? They continue doing their crime. They don't stop. There is, I do not, that's the thing. I don't know why they call it the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, because they don't do either. Neither one occurs. They need to lock them up and leave them there, because there is no correction and there's no rehabilitation. It doesn't happen. And if it does, it is so extremely rare. I mean, the craziness of our society and how we've let it get so crazy. If we just kind of took a step, well, not just a step, but a few steps back and said, okay, time to just say, whoa, we need to get a handle on this. We need to focus on law and order. We need to let our police do their job. We've got body cameras on the officers. We know they're doing their job. Because the body cameras prove it. I mean, it's crazy. Personally, I'm not for the body cameras. Officers are held to a higher standard as it is. They are sworn to their duties. That puts them way, way up here compared to the normal citizen. Their word should be gold. Unfortunately, things took a turn, and they made the officers the bad guys. They made the bad guys the good guys. So if a complaint was filed against a police officer, the complainant was automatically believed, and the officer had to fight like hell to prove that he was innocent. I know this personally. because when I was an officer, I had some dirtbag file a complaint on me for theft. I supposedly stole, I think what was it, 169 or 100, some weird crazy number, $169 or $163 or some crap, and split it 7 ways so we could all have dinner, working an extra duty job. This guy was wanted for aggravated murder of his grandmother. He wasn't at the time that I arrested him, but at the time that we arrested him, he was swore up and down he was going to have our badges. He was going to file complaint on us and all this stuff. The normal. You heard it every day. And the line was long for people that were going to have our badges. And he swore he was going to have our badge and all that stuff. And so he filed this BS complaint. That investigation took 2 years. It was unfounded, of course, but it took 2 years to get there. That shouldn't have taken any longer than a month. I had to fight. I had to fight my chain of command because my lieutenant at first wanted to make it not sustained, which meant they couldn't prove it one way or the other. You can't have that kind of charge in your file because every defense attorney that comes down the pike, they all request your personnel file before you go to trial on something. And the first thing they're going to do is say, "Oh, sir, weren't you a complaint filed on you for theft and they couldn't prove it or nor disprove it?" Well, yeah. Well, why aren't you? Couldn't that be the case here? Your credibility's gone. You can't have that as a police officer. So in the meantime, while all this is going on, and I'm fighting my chain of command saying, hey, everything in this is a lie. You know it. Why are you doing this? My deputy chief comes up and says, "Hey, take a polygraph test." I'm like, "I don't have to." He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I don't have to take a polygraph test. Not until the idiot that filed the complaint takes one. Get him in here and take one. Once he gets his done, then I do. And that's per the contract between the city and the FOP. I'm not breaking with the contract." Well, by then, guess what? He had the warrant for aggravated murder. He's in the wind. He ain't coming in. So he doesn't come in, doesn't take the polygraph. I don't have to take the polygraph. Unfounded. And that's the kind of crap you have to fight when you're a police officer. It's crazy. It is crazy. People make false complaints all the time. And then they come up with finally they came up in Ohio, they said, okay, we'll make a law that if somebody files a false complaint against a police officer, it's a first-degree misdemeanor. Great. We can do something about it. We can charge them with a crime for doing it. Maybe that'll slow it down from making these false complaints that's going on. Guess how many times it's been used? None. You know why? Because the police departments say, oh, no, we can't file charges for somebody making a false complaint because it'll look like we're have a vendetta against them. What? How is that we're having a vendetta against them? They filed a false complaint. They deserve to go to jail for it. Otherwise, they're just going to continue to file false complaints. Oh, yeah. We don't want them to feel like we have a grudge. Well, then, that's a useless law. We need to help law enforcement. We need law and order back. We need to point out the hypocrisy, especially of the Democrats. They are the absolute worst. That is one evil party. And the people are just so evil. I have not seen that kind of evil ever. And I will call them out any chance I get. And with that, please watch your back. Beware of your surroundings. Things out there are really crazy. I see it all the time. Be aware of your surroundings. Be safe. Take care of yourselves. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And until next time, this has been Real Thoughts with Bob Benham. I am Bob Benham. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And until next time, bye-bye.